Hi, and welcome to episode 8 of Book Chat with Julie. I'm Julie with the Argenta Branch Library, part of the Lehman Library System in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Book clubs. We're going to talk about book club favorites. There's my favorite word, favorites. This week marks my 11th anniversary with the Lehman Library System, and for the past 6 years I've been down at the Argenta Branch Library. And I have led 3 different book clubs over the last 6 years. And in thinking back of all the books that we've read and discussed together, I pulled out some of the more popular ones. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were the most liked, but they did give the most lively discussion and insight to the book. Amongst the 3 groups, a couple of the groups did read the same book, so you really get a different view from one group versus the other group about how they saw the book, or maybe a personal story that somebody interjects into the book club discussion that kind of gives the book a whole new light when you can match it up with somebody else's story. So during book club time, I like to research the author. I like to show videos of author interviews, how the author came to the story, what drew them. Was there a personal connection to the place or time that they're writing about? Or did they just make it up? I'm always admired people who can just make up a story. Many of the authors, they do have their own videos, like I said, on their own webpage. Many of them make book club kits that you can download and print off, as I do for the book clubs, and they have recipes. They have more information about the place and time that's featured in the story, maybe a little information just about the setting, and again why they chose to use that. So what do you usually say when somebody asks you, hey, did you like that book? I think most of us probably answer, I liked it, I loved it, I hated it, it was boring. But I've always felt kind of weird saying things like, I loved it, when it really was a good book, but everybody died in the book. Or it ends, it's a mystery, a murder mystery, and the mysterious person, the killer, is still at large, even at the end of the book. So do you say, oh, I loved it, I love books about serial killers? So what does that say? That I love serial killers? No, but so I try to come up with some other words that you can use in describing a book, maybe to draw the reader in that you're trying to recommend the book to, and that might appeal to them to say, oh, I see, so maybe I will read that book. So here's just a quick list. You could say action-packed, full of action, addictive, adventurous, amusing, funny, enjoyable, amazing, surprising, believable, breathtaking, delightful, lovely, comforting. It was emotional. That could either be a sad emotional or it could be a happy emotional, but that might draw somebody into the book that you're trying to recommend for them to read. One of the books that I found very intriguing, and I actually did get to go see the author. She didn't sign my book, but I did get to see the author, and that is Susan Orlean, and she wrote The Library Book, and it's actually a nonfiction book. On the morning of April 28th, 1986, the fire alarm sounded in the Los Angeles Public Library. The fire was disastrous. It reached 2,000 degrees and burned for more than 7 hours. By the time it was extinguished, it had consumed 400,000 books and damaged 700,000 more. Investigators descended on the scene, but more than 30 years later, the mystery remains. Did someone purposely set the fire to the library? And if so, who? The author goes through the history of the library, what they did to salvage things that they could salvage, different meat packing plants around grocery stores. They all kind of chipped in and offered freezer space because apparently the books that had some water damage and some smoke damage, if they froze them, they had a better chance of restoring them. So that she has a great love for the library. She talks about how her mother took her to the library and developed her love of the library. So that is just a really great nonfiction read, and it's the library book. All the Flowers in Paris by Sarah Gio. Two women are connected across time by the city of Paris, a mysterious journal, shocking secrets sweeping from World War II to the present for readers of Sarah Keyes. When Caroline wakes up in a Paris hospital with no memory of her past, she's confused to learn that she lived a sad, reclusive life for years in a sprawling apartment in Paris. Slowly regaining vague memories of a man and a young child, she vows to piece her life back together, though she can't help but feel that she may be in danger. A budding friendship with the chef of the charming nearby restaurant takes her mind off of her foggy past, as does a startling mystery from decades prior. This is one that it does float back and forth between time frames, but it'll keep your interest all the way to the end. The Secrets We Kept by Laura Prescott. I'm going to be really honest. When I passed this book out, we all kind of went, ugh. It was a little slow to get into, but if you pick it up, stick with it. This book, I did make it all the way through the end. I was kind of hesitant about book club discussion because I wasn't sure if everybody was going to think, I don't know. It is the debut novel for Laura. Her interview that was on her website, if you can YouTube her, watch her interviews, sold me on the book. Her describing why and how and when and what brought her to write this book, it sold me on it. It also, probably in 6 years, is one of the books that had the most riveting conversation about the book. Everybody kind of walked in, we didn't know what to say. Conversation opened up, and it does make for a very good discussion book. If you have a group of people that need to read a book, The Secrets We Kept by Laura Prescott is a good one. It is Secretaries Turned Spies, Love and Duty and Sacrifice, inspired by the true story of the CIA plot to infiltrate the hearts and minds of the Soviet Russia. Not with propaganda, but with the greatest love story of the 20th century, Dr. Zhivago. And I'll just leave it at that. An author that we have read multiple books by her. She probably has about 6 or 7 more in the library on Hoopla and on Libby. So I think you don't have to read any of them in their order. They're all standalones. But that is Sally Hepworth. She's a great author for book club discussion books. And the first one we read is called The Things We Keep. And with honesty and true understanding, Sally Hepworth pens this poignant story of one of today's nightmares, early onset Alzheimer's. Anna Forster, in early stages of Alzheimer's disease, at only 38 years old, knows that her family is doing what they believe to be best when they take her to the Rosalind House, an assisted living facility. She also knows there's just one other resident like her at her age, Luke, there as well. What she does not expect is the love that blossoms between her and Luke. Even as she resists her new life at the Rosalind House, as her disease steals more and more of her memory, Anna fights to hold on to what she knows, including her relationship with Luke. When Eve Bennett is suddenly thrust into the role of single mother, she finds herself putting her culinary training to use at the Rosalind House. When she meets Anna and Luke, she is moved by the bond that the pair have forged. But when a tragic incident leads Anna's and Luke's families to separate them, Eve finds herself questioning what she is willing to risk to help them. And this story, The Things We Keep, it's basically told from Anna's voice as the main narrator, and it gives you She gives you a lot of insight about what might be going through somebody's mind at the early onset of Alzheimer's. There is some sad to the book. It is a reality, but there's also a lot of funny to the book. She brings a lot of light humor when she's trying to remember and think through things. The Anna character, it's a great read. Another Sally Hepworth is The Mother-in-Law. I actually chose this last year when I was about to become a mother-in-law. I didn't know anything about the book. I just know the mother-in-law, and you know this from the very beginning, the mother-in-law ends up dead. So I thought, maybe I better check this out. From the moment that Lucy met her husband's mother, Diana, she was always kept at arm's length. Diana was very polite and properly friendly, but Lucy knew that she was not what Diana had envisioned. But who could fault Diana? She was a pillar of the community, an advocate for social justice who helped female refugees in their new country. Diana was happily married to Tom and lived a wedded bliss for decades. Lucy wanted so much to please her new mother-in-law. That was 5 years ago. Now, Diana is found dead. A suicide note by her body, Diana claims that she no longer wanted to live because of the battle with cancer. But the autopsy finds no cancer. The autopsy does have traces of poison and suffocation. Who could possibly want Diana dead? Why was her will changed at the 11th hour to disinherit both of her adult children and their spouses? With Lucy's secret getting deeper and her relationship with her mother-in-law growing more complex as the pages turn, this new novel from Sally Hepworth is sure to add to her growing legions of fans. And I will tell you, you will not know until the last 3 pages. Don't go and read the last 3 pages before you read the whole book. I'm not one of those readers who goes and reads the last few pages just to go back and reread. But don't go read the last 3 or 4 pages of that book. Wait till the end and you will be very, very surprised. Martha Kelly Hall is another great author for book club books. The Lilac Girls. It's inspired by a real World War II heroine. This debut novel reveals the story of love, redemption, and secrets that were hidden for decades. New York socialite Caroline Faraday has her hands full with her post at the French consulate and a new love on the horizon. But Caroline's world is forever changed when Hitler's armies invade Poland in September of 1939, and then sets its sights on France. The lives of 3 women are set on a collision course when the unthinkable happens, and Keisha is sent to Ravensbrück. This book will also give you a lot of information about Ravensbrück if you're not familiar with that. The notorious Nazi concentration camp for women. Their stories cross continents from New York to Paris to Germany and Poland as Caroline and Keisha strive to bring justice to those whom history has forgotten. And again, it does give you a lot of information about Ravensbrück and kind of what happened there. Her next book, Lost Roses, that's actually the prequel, even though it came out after. I kind of don't like it when authors do that, but they do. But this is the prequel, and this is The Lost Roses is going to follow more of Caroline Faraday's story and then how she progressed from there. One of the last books that I will talk about is it's Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. I don't know if you're familiar with Jodi's books. She writes a lot of current event stories. She puts a lot of it's an emotional read. It's a what do you want to say? It's just emotional. This is emotional. Small Great Things. Ruth Jefferson is a labor and delivery nurse at a Connecticut hospital with more than 20 years of experience. During her shift, Ruth begins routine checkup on a newborn, only to be told a few minutes later that she's been reassigned to another patient. The parents of the newborn are white supremacists, and they don't want Ruth, who is African American, to touch their child. The hospital complies with their request, but the next day, the baby goes into cardiac arrest. While Ruth is alone in the nursery, does she obey the orders, or does she intervene? Ruth hesitates before performing CPR, and as a result is charged with a serious crime. Kennedy McQuarrie, a white public defender, takes her case but gives unexpected advice. Kennedy insists that mentioning race in the courtroom is not a winning strategy. Conflicted by Kennedy's counsel, Ruth tries to keep life as normal as possible for her family, especially her teenage son, as the case becomes a media sensation. As the trial moves forward, Ruth and Kennedy must gain each other's trust and come to see that what they've been taught their whole lives about others and themselves might be wrong. With incredible empathy, intelligence, and candor, Jodi tackles race, privilege, prejudice, justice, and compassion, and doesn't offer easy answers. Small Great Things is a remarkable achievement from the writer at the top of her game. So like I said, these were great discussion books, lively discussions, discussions that we heard personal stories about some of these events that I've mentioned and how they have intersected in their lives. So we're still offering curbside service at the Argento Branch Library and at the main Lehman Library. You can call me. The number is listed below. I'm still willing to scour our shelves to find you the perfect read to finish up the summer. So we're winding down our summer reading program. I have a couple videos left, and then we will start recording them once a month. So beginning in August, on the second Thursday of every month, there should be a new Book Chat with Julie. And for today, I really miss my book clubs, and I can't wait to have the library back open, even though it may be a while, to recommend books to you face to face. It was mentioned to me by a very good book reader friend to go ahead and list the books in the comment section. So I will go back through all the videos and I will list all the books that were talked about during those videos, the titles and the authors, or just the authors' names, and then makes it a little bit easier for you to find some of the books that I've recommended this summer. So again, this has been Book Chat with Julie, and I thank you for joining me for episode 8. Have a nice day. Thank you.